Sometimes life's burdens can take their toll on your emotional well-being. If you or a loved one is struggling, know that you are not alone. South Texas Health System Behavioral can help you cope with depression, manage feelings of anxiety, regain control of mood swings, and recover from substance use disorders. Our staff is available 24/7, offering the quality and compassionate inpatient and outpatient care you need to overcome life's challenges. South Texas Health System Behavioral, where your mental health is our priority. Welcome to our latest Let's Talk Mental Health webinar. I'm Tom Castañeda, the System Director of Marketing and Public Relations for South Texas Health System. Thank you for joining us. Your mental health is important. By prioritizing your mental and emotional well-being, you'll be able to better manage stress, build greater resilience, maintain healthy relationships, and improve your overall quality of life. So to help you prioritize your mental health, STHS Behavioral hosts these monthly Let's Talk Mental Health webinars. Through this important education, hopefully more people will feel comfortable discussing their own mental health struggles and get professional help if necessary. And when it comes to self-care, I know people think it's selfish to take time for yourself, but it's not.
It is not, and I think that is the biggest mistake we make. Good example, one of the best health cares that we were taught as kids, and I don't know if they still do it, but I remember being in kindergarten. Nap time. Man, if they were to bring back nap time in the school system, I mean, literally, homeroom should be nap time. I wonder how much of a difference it would make to the overall well-being of the kids if they would just take a little nap, a 20-minute power nap, 30-minute power nap, just to regroup. Well, we don't do that, okay? And so we have to take care of ourselves. We have to protect ourselves emotionally. The problem is, as we get older, we have responsibilities. The worst culprits are going to be moms. They got the kids, they got the husband, and if they're working moms, they got their activities, they got to go to work. They're going to sacrifice themselves, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, because they get drained, and so they're notorious for not taking care of themselves. Men aren't too far behind. You know, we got responsibilities to the kids, we got responsibilities to the family, we got our responsibility to the jobs. So all that factors into making it difficult to want to take care of ourselves. And then we deal with you're so selfish. You're only thinking about yourself, but if we don't take care of ourselves, who's going to take, eventually if we look at ourselves like a vehicle, if we keep running, eventually we're going to run out of gas, we're going to burn out, we're going to burn the engine, then we become ineffective providers, we become ineffective moms, we become ineffective dads, we become ineffective individuals for others, and it's harder to give. That's the thing we want to focus on. So it's okay to be self-indulgent, it's okay to be selfish, and that's what we teach our patients. It's okay to take care of yourself, put yourself, but be ready for some backlash. People will say, you're so selfish. Why are you only thinking of you? Well, because if we don't, we're not going to be productive.
Exactly.
And that's real important.
And I think a lot of it has to do as well with the guilt that we experience is how we're brought up, especially if you were brought up Catholic. That Catholic guilt really comes into play where you're like, I should really be with my kids doing this or that, but you're getting, you're getting a massage, which you're stressed beyond belief, and a massage is okay to get every now and then.
Yeah, that is, I recommend massages. And it was my wife, I'm going to thank her. I mean, it was like growing up. It was like men don't get manicures, pedicures unless you're in the mafia. It's like the Bible you see in the mob movies, the mafia movies. So they got massages or pedicures. I never saw a mafia guy get a pedicure, but we see the manicures. But when I finally first got my first pedicure, I'm like, dude, you got to try this. It's so relaxing, and I push it. It's like it should be more manly because. It's so relaxing. It just takes you away, even just to get your hands taken care of, the massaging, that
entire treatment is just very relaxing. It's 30 minutes to an hour where you really can relax and unwind. Yeah, and
they're massaging and they're talking to you, and then you can fall asleep if you want. It's fun. So I don't see why we don't do it more often. We don't push those type of things, and I think it's awesome to get a massage, foot rub, whatever. There's different places now. I just think we should be pushing it more and more, getting the people out there, not just men, women, And it's interesting, we'll do it for other people, we'll recommend it for other people. I've even seen where they'll recommend it for the pets, but you got to take care of yourself too.
Exactly.
So sneak it in and get it. And if they complain, then just, there's ways we can welcome. We'll as a therapist, we'll teach you how to deal with complainers in that regards, because we have to.
Yeah. Well, education is extremely important.
Yes.
Understanding just what it means to indulge in a little bit of self-care. And you have a great presentation for us, so let's get started.
Yes. All right. So one of the things we want to focus on is what is self-care and why it's important. Okay. Self-care basically just comes down to it's the practice of taking care of ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. All right. It helps us promote health and wellness within ourselves. Okay. The World Health Organization just basically added on that it's being able to take care of yourself with or without the support of healthcare providers. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have to have a health provider. In fact, if you work with both, if you're doing maintenance, if your doctor says, if you're dealing with diabetes, high blood pressure, you work as a team. We're seeing now more and more where therapists, or not so much therapists, but healthcare providers are referring patients, especially with diabetes, to nutritionists, right? We're seeing more and more where they're being referred to counseling if they are dealing with some depression or anxiety or stress. So it's not just, here's medication, we're going to fix it. Now they're taking up and we're seeing more and more healthcare providers taking a more holistic approach in taking care of their patients. So, and that's, I think, I've seen an improvement there with some of the healthcare providers. I can speak at least on behalf of my medical doctor. She's really good about, are you, doing this, doing that, little walks, exercise. So she's always checking on those things, and I think that's a big plus. So that's what we talk about. We say, what is self-care? It's that self-indulgence, taking care of yourself, attacking the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects of our well-being. Because if we're taking care of ourselves, man, we want to be on our A game when we're dealing with everybody else. All right. Basically the first person has to be you, and that's what we try and push. So that is why it's important to have self-care. What we're noticing is individuals is when we talk about self-care, what is self-care? And it's understanding the difference between positive self-care and negative self-care, or what we think is normal self-care is not very appropriate. All right. And some of the things that we're noticing is when we talk about people getting involved with overindulgence, spending sprees. There's nothing wrong with going window shopping. There's nothing wrong with doing a little shopping. It's that overindulgence. So that's how I get my comfort. That's not an appropriate self-care method, especially if it's going to affect you financially. When you're dealing with, the favorite is when we're dealing with stress, anxiety, especially here in the Valley, man, we're notorious. Let's go eat something. We're stressing out. Let's go get a bite to eat. How many of us will be, and I've heard from my patients, I've heard from my friends, I've done it. Get the big old bag of chips, start eating. I'm just gonna eat a couple of bit. Next thing you know, you see halfway through the movie, you're like, oh, yes, ya se me acabó los papitas. I ran out of the chips. You're like, man, I didn't know I ate the whole thing without even knowing. And chips aren't the healthiest. They're good, but not the healthiest. The ice cream. Going for the cookies, things like that, just without thinking, so we overindulge in our eating. Activities that provide instant gratification. And that would be something as simple as maybe inappropriate sex, just having different sex partners. We have people who are addicted to sex when it becomes just because you need that gratification. Individuals who have issues, gambling. It's a good, quick form, but it's an activity that's going to cost you. Especially now that we're seeing those las maquinas, the machines, all over the place. You see them now in convenience stores, where before they were hidden. Now you're seeing them more open, people playing them, right? It can become very addicting. And if you think of the money they're spending, the time that they're pretty much by themselves. So there's that loneliness factor, that isolation. So we want to make sure we're doing activities that are more appropriate. We talk about expensive, lavish vacations. If you have to get a loan, if you have to max out your credit cards all the time to do this, that's not a healthy self-care method. okay? And that's what we look at. Make sure it's appropriate, within budget, within reason, because then we add more stress when we come back. When we talk about perfecting oneself by all means, the best example would be the ones who love being in the gym. There's a healthy amount of time, but then we've seen people that they say, I go to the gym, I can be there 5-6 hours working out all day, and it's not their job. You know, they're not, these aren't bodybuilders who are training for the, these bodybuilding, powerlifting championships. These are just individuals who that's their form of exercise. Well, there's medical concerns with that, when they start causing damage to their muscles and stuff. So there's actual medical repercussions from that overworking out. Mm-hmm. All right? So we want to be careful with that. Turning to alcohol, drugs, to just numb the feeling of the depression, the anxiety, the loneliness, the stress. And that can be very dangerous. For a lot of us, I'm guilty in the sense that I'll make the comment, but I got to be very conscious. Like a hard day at work, it's been stressful. I can joke with my coworkers, man, I feel like a beer right now. And I probably do at that moment. I do feel like a beer, something to drink, but I have to make a self-conscious effort that I don't do it, especially if I'm by myself or my wife's out of town. I'm not going to drink by myself. I don't do anything like that at home because it makes no sense for me. Plus, I'm protecting myself. Plus, I know talk about knowing your family history. I come from a family of alcoholics who've died from cirrhosis of the liver, drinking issues, marital issues. So I don't put myself in that situation, So those are things, family members, friends who turn to drugs, just numb. Those are short-term gratification. It helped for the moment, but it doesn't help us with the real issue that's going on, how to deal with the stressors. We're even saying now we have been watching TV, being on social media, that can be very hard. It helps for a little bit, but when we're binging on something, especially TV, social media, we're not engaging with people. We're still naturally individuals who need to be connected. We need that face-to-face, we need that physical handshake, that hug. We need to be engaging with people. When we binge, when we are doing social media, watching TV, and like I said, it's good in moderation. Not when you're doing it 7 hours, 8 hours. Teens, children on the video games all night, and they wonder why they can't sleep. Well, we got to learn how to change some of those habits. So it's that instant gratification, that instant help that we found ourselves. At the moment it was helpful, but in the long term it's not. And that's what we're trying to do. So we want to start getting people to focus on what is self-care, what is true self-care, what is more appropriate self-care, and that's what we try and focus on, as we talk about that. So it's prioritizing one's physical and mental health. All right? It's good to go to the gym. It's good to go for walks. What are some of the stuff that's physical? Swimming, hiking, biking, working in the yard. It's a wonderful form. It's still exercise. It's keeping physical. In fact, one of my patients says, because we talked about this earlier today, and they even said, what about cleaning the house? And we talked about it. For her, she finds cleaning the house when the kids were in school, no one's home, that was her quiet time. And that was her relaxing time. She enjoyed cleaning her house. So that is self-care. She was able to just relax and enjoy her, her masterpiece of the house being clean. She goes, you know how exhilarating it is to just sit there and have a quiet house that's clean. Self-care, It's not an addiction. It's not something she's doing all the time. She's not up at 2, 3 in the morning. So it's not a mental, it's just she enjoys it. It helps her calm. I know individuals who, for them, self-care is cooking. And I'm going to throw my wife under the bus. She loves to cook. She finds it very relaxing. She enjoys cooking. For her, that's her quiet time. And she's a great cook. I leave her alone. I just do the dishes, but she finds comfort in that. So it's finding those things that are helping us. So prioritizing me or themselves. Adopting lifestyle habits that can be maintained long-term, that is healthy. like I said, exercising. Some people, if you can afford a gym, go to the gym, maintain it. Don't let the money go to waste and not go, but make an effort, even if it's 2 or 3 times a week. If you can get into reading, get into a book club. You know, if you belong to a church, join a Bible study, just something that you can maintain, that you're always participating in. So do something that you're going to enjoy long term. Could be learning an instrument, knitting, things like that that can just help you enjoy, relax. It could be watching TV. You may have an indulgence. I'm guilty. K-dramas. I'll watch, you know, I'll pick a show with my wife and we'll watch 1 or 2 episodes a night. You know, when we have a chance, or every other night, we'll watch a couple of shows. You know, and we enjoy it and we talk about it and we're laughing. You know, making an effort to be with friends. You know, things that we can control and not just keep it a one-time deal. So long term. Again, finding exercise activities that you enjoy, participating in them regularly, getting adequate amount of good quality sleep. People don't realize how sleep can affect their whole well-being. And we really push this in the hospital with our patients. Sleep is the most important thing. And yet they don't realize with sleep, it affects us physically if we're not sleeping. If it's affecting us sleepy, it begins to affect us mentally. It affects us mentally, it affects us emotionally. And it definitely affects us spiritually, or our energy level with other patients, other people, with family. So sleep is very important. When we have people coming in, haven't slept for 2 or 3 days, and don't even have to be a patient, it doesn't have to be a mental illness. We see it in college students who are cramming finals, you know, and how difficult it is to try and stay focused because you're losing sleep. You know, the big difference between them and some of our patients is once the finals are over, they can take a nap, go to bed for a day and a half, and they feel revitalized. Our patients have a harder time. But it's getting that sleep and recognizing it and understanding. What we teach our patients, understanding the overall effect sleep has on everything. Remember we talked about the 4 quadrants. Well, you know, how is sleep affected? You know, it's the lack of melatonin. We're not getting the melatonin we need to help us sleep. Well, but then we're learning is what we call the on-off switch for sleep is the serotonin. Well, everybody knows serotonin is the chemical that actually improves our mood. Well, if we're not getting enough serotonin, then the melatonin ain't dripping the right way, so it's not helping us sleep, or we're oversleeping, you know. And then where does melatonin come from? Well, it's a byproduct of amino acids, which is a byproduct of protein. So you see how we're incorporating diet and understanding how food can affect. All right, so it's teaching all of that because of the importance of sleep. And that's what important. So it's so important. We got to get our sleep in. And that's why I always promote power naps and getting your 7 to 8 hours if you're an adult. Children, a little bit more hours. If you do have a condition, whether it's mental, even physical, follow a treatment plan. Well, if the doctor schedules you an appointment, doctor has you on medication for, say, high blood pressure, especially our older folks, diabetes, whatever physical, medical conditions are affected, follow the plan. Because if we take ourselves physically, the idea of medication is to help maintain, help us stay at base where we're healthy and we can continue to take care of ourselves. If we abuse our medication, we're not taking it, then we increase our likelihood of depression, anxiety, other stuff like that, and we can start breaking down. And it's harder to take care of ourselves. So part of healthcare, self-care is recognizing if I'm on medication, I need to be on it. If whatever the doctor recommends. So follow the plans, all right? And learning to take time out for yourself, participate in healthy activities you enjoy. Again, make the time. Today's my day. Mommy, daddy's gonna be at the gym. We're going swimming, we're going for a walk. We're gonna go chill at the park. I'm gonna go to Starbucks and just go read a book. You know, whatever it is that you enjoy for your quiet time. If you can't do it at home, I know single people, it's a little easier because, you know, they're not attached to children, they're not attached to family in regards, but they're able to, as opposed to married couples who have family, it's a little harder, but it's making that effort, making that time, all right, to take care of yourself. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the different types of self-care that we can incorporate, and one of the first ones we talk about the physical. We're looking at the quadrants now, the physical health care, our physical health. What are we doing? So it's going to be different for everybody. You know, I enjoy swimming. I enjoy the quiet time. I enjoy just sitting outside, not sitting outside as much, but like if depending on the weather, just being out there enjoying it. For me, it's that retreating to just enjoy myself, my thoughts, whether it's with a book or just whatever I'm doing, a crossword puzzle, that's me. You may have something different. You may enjoy walking. You may enjoy being with friends. You may enjoy going to the gym. You may enjoy biking. Find that activity that's yours, all right? If you can find a club, that's even better, that's doing it, okay? Again, always getting the proper amount of exercise, depending on if you're going seeing a doctor, if you've never done it, talk to the doctor. Usually they'll recommend 30 minutes, 3 times a week, just to get started. You know, as you get more proficient, then you can go up maybe to an hour, 3 times a week. Some people like going at least 5 days a week. Just everyone's eventually find their style, their rhythm that helps them. Again, eating regular balanced meals that are mostly whole foods and staying hydrated. That's something that's real important. Things I've been learning more and more, the nutritional aspect of mental health. How the foods that we eat affect our mental health. What are the different vitamins, minerals that can help affect the brain, help our mood to get better. I kind of hinted at protein. A lot of people don't know that protein actually, well, the best way to describe it is a lot of people, when you ask them about serotonin, everybody thinks the brain makes it. Well, the brain only makes 20% of the serotonin our body, and the body needs 100%. The other 80% of the serotonin comes from the protein that we eat, the foods that we're eating. That's where the rest of the serotonin is coming from. So think about it, we're missing 80% of our serotonin if we're not eating healthy, especially proteins. Engaging in relaxing, this one's important, kind of going back to our foot massages, physical massages, engaging in relaxing activities that can help manage stress. We've got to find activities that's just relaxing. Like we talked about, massages, sitting outside. Good question would be to find out from our audience, and I'm even asking you and just having, your team here, just how many of you guys actually got to do a little self-care the last couple of weeks with this great weather? I was joking with my wife, how'd you like this pre-autumn season that we're having? It's like, it's July and we're hitting like 80 degrees and you're like, and it's cool breeze, you're like, what the heck? But who's actually enjoyed it?
It's been really nice.
It has been.
Be out and about and walk and not be dying in the heat.
When was the last time somebody walked out at 3 in the afternoon without, just walking from the house to the mailbox without breaking a sweat because of the humidity? It's like 99, 100 degrees, and we're not even talking the heat index. To actually walk out, it's like 80, and it's like a cool breeze. You're like, weird. To actually have somebody say, it's actually a little chilly outside. In fact, my wife goes, it's actually a little cool out here today. The day, I think, it was the day before yesterday when it was kind of raining, it was a little cool out there. It's like, interesting. I haven't heard that in the summertime, July.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting. How many people have actually enjoyed it? Went outside and, sat on the porch, sat out there, just enjoyed the breeze. That's self-care. Those little things that we do, appreciate those little moments and take advantage of them. Okay. Again, we talked about sleep, and the other part is the regular medical and dental care for the physical. Like I said, if we're not taking ourselves medically, physically, we're not seeing our checkups, especially if we get older, keep your appointments. If it's annual physicals, we got to stay on top of it because we do slowly break down. We're not as agile, we're not as strong as we were when I was 20, 30. We're getting older, things have to change, so we have to keep up with the changes and do the things that help me stay longer, be around longer for my family, for my wife, and things like that. But the other part people don't recognize is dental care. They go, well, why is dental care so important? Well, studies are showing that most of our illnesses will generate from our mouth, the foods that we're eating, the plaque, the bacteria that's in there. Well, if we're not brushing, we're not flossing, we're not gargling, and we just keep them there, well, we're swallowing all that stuff. So a lot of our medical conditions, a lot of our medical issues can't come basically from the mouth. If you think about it, this is one of the biggest openings we have. We say, oh, we get a cut, whatever. No, we got to take care of this part too. Because we're always swallowing. We're always swallowing saliva, we're eating food, we're dropping it back up. So all that bacteria is going back with it. So that's why it's important to take care of our dental. Go see your dentist, get your teeth clean. follow the recommendations they have, brush, floss, and all that good stuff. Little things like that. We go forward, we're going to talk about our mental health. What do we do for our mental health? Well, mental health, we're focusing, the things that we can do to help our brain function. That's the best way to describe it. What can we do? So we can use relaxation programs or apps regularly to incorporate, especially now everybody's doing the apps. You can get on there, you can find an exercise, you can find programs, you can find reading material, you can find almost anything, Sudokus, any kind of mental exercise games. We want to keep the brain active, all right? Something that we need to do also mindfully is learning to practice gratitude by reminding ourselves daily of the things we're grateful for. That's a mental activity. We're so big, especially in our field, in my field, we see a lot of patients who feel regrets, who feel maybe that they're not being loved, or they become bitter. It's hard for them to, they get so caught up within themselves mentally, focusing on their issues, their worries, their traumas, that sometimes a simple little switch would be showing a little gratitude for others, being thankful for the people in your life, just being thankful that you're alive today, showing a little kindness to others, those little things. And be surprised how much of it changes in their mentality and their well-being. All right, and so some of the things we want to recommend also is participating in creative activities. Again, Sudokus, reading a book, doing a puzzle. I love crossword puzzles. I can do them all day, before I finally cheat at the very end, but I'll go as far as I can, but the idea is I'm exercising my brain. Why? If we're exercising the brain, we decrease the likelihood of developing Alzheimer's, dementia, because we're keeping the brain exercise. As we get older, that's why you see older folks signing up for classes at the universities. They're exercising their mind. They're helping to prevent a lot of those dementias, Alzheimer's. So you want to get into a good book. Even young folks, keep your mind busy, learn new things. I think one of the problems we're seeing, especially with the younger generation, I'm talking teens, young children too, teens, they want to learn something, they do the quick, I'm trying to learn it on YouTube. Well, the people on YouTube have probably been masters of what they're doing. They know they've been playing, like especially I've seen kids who want to learn the guitar. And they try and they go, I stink at this, I'm not good at it, so they give up. Well, you don't pick up the guitar and learn it, and you're not going to be as good as Jimi Hendrix, you're not going to be as Stevie Ray Vaughan in 2 weeks. You may not be there for years. It takes a lot of practice. You got to build the muscle, you got to get the memory, memory exercises, where you can retain that information. You're going to have to build calluses on your fingers if you ever played guitar. You learn it, and then as you get more proficient and keep studying, keep working at it, then you maintain, then you see your proficiency, then you can get better. But we quit a lot. We see a lot of kids who I can't do it, I quit. But it's not the point. It's exercising. It takes skill. Some of the best people, you look at pro athletes, are really great. What makes a pro athlete great, and one of the best ones, if you watch them, if you ever watch their practice, they go in there an hour or two before the rest of the team. They do a lot of fundamentals. So especially now we had basketball season not too long ago, and what are they doing? They're in there shooting free throws, 50, 100 free throws, getting that muscle memory, that consistency, that practice, basic stuff, the discipline of doing the routine stuff that you were taught, the basics. Always maintain that. Any activity you do, always go back to the basics and keep practicing them. And that helps you with your muscle memory, helps you improve your overall well-being mentally. New hobbies. Whether you're good at it or not, just start it. If you like to draw, just start drawing. You don't have to become a Picasso, just enjoy drawing because you enjoy it. If you enjoy writing, write. If you enjoy reading a book, read a book. Any hobbies that will help you mentally, all right? Like I said, we talked about adult education briefly. Some of the older folks, especially as adults, take classes, take self-help classes. Go study something just for the fun of it. Do something different. And at times we might have to seek professional help. That's something that's real important for a lot of us. Seeking professional help, that's required, it's necessary, it's going to help us stay on track, all right? It's always good to have somebody. And seeking professional help does not mean, especially if you're looking for mental, counsel and all that, it doesn't mean you're crazy. You're just somebody that you can bounce off ideas off, somebody you can vent with without being judged, without being told or being interrupted by family members or I know what you're, and I've seen it where they say, well, because I've been there where families say, oh, I know exactly what you're going through. It's like, that's not what I'm talking to. I just need somebody to, I need a bouncing board, So getting professional help. So it's not for individuals who are crazy, it's for everybody. Even as a therapist, I have my bouncing board. I have my go-to people that I will process and vent with and stay focused, all right? Because we all need it. That's just standard one-on-one. Focusing on relationships. We as people in general are not made to be isolated. People choose to, but naturally we are engaging people. Children, when they're born, their first response, if it's within the, if everything's within the normal range, is to cling to mom. They need that human touch. Studies have shown when kids are detached from mom at birth, they develop issues, and that's why you see now the grandparents are going in, working with children, newborns, holding them, hugging them, so they get that connectedness, that touching. We tend to be relational people by trait. Relational doesn't mean you're outgoing, doesn't mean that you're an extrovert having a good time. Some people can enjoy a large crowd, some people enjoy being around a lot of people, that's great for them. Introverts might be more relaxed and just with 2 or 3 people. That's still a connectedness, and there's ways to foster some of our relationships with individuals. We look at, I kind of hit on it briefly, regular scheduled appointments, meetings, get-togethers. If you have a coffee club, a book club, and essentially I've met a few people that do have book clubs. Although some of you see on the TV, but I actually met people locally who have book clubs that they get together and read a book and talk about it. Going to the movies with friends. Or sometimes just hanging out. When was the last time you just hung out with your friends? Didn't do anything, just hung out. And sometimes that's some of the best times you can do. You're just hanging out, enjoying the company, talking about everything and nothing. So we want to get good at that. And also with family, I think the Valley's really good. And I don't think it's just because we're Hispanic, Mexicanos. I think any culture that, there are some cultures that enjoy family, the pachangas, the parties, the barbecues, the get-togethers, the quinceañeras, the wedding. Get together, have time, visit. I remember growing up, and I look in hindsight, I go, man, that was the best thing my grandma was really good at. She grew up in Westlaco. She lived in Westlaco. We grew up in there. She had a front porch, had several chairs there, and pretty much every afternoon, when the sun started going down, all the ladies that came, were like the neighborhood ladies, would come over and chill with grandma, and they would just visit with her, and then their kids or grandkids would be there. So we all just be hanging out on the front porch. We'd be in the street playing. But it's like I never saw my grandmother so happy. She enjoyed talking. She enjoyed visiting, and sometimes they would move the party to another neighborhood, another house. But it was always that afternoon get together, that connectedness, and seeing them laughing and enjoying. And I found out when they were laughing, having a good time, boy, we can get away with almost anything at that time as a kid. We can ask for stuff, and we just like, yeah, go for it. And I don't think they were really paying attention. They just say, yeah, okay. But they were more, they weren't as regañosos with us. They weren't getting after us as much, okay? So it's fun watching them connect. For those who have a spiritual belief or belong to a church, participate in your church. Most churches will have groups within the church community. You have the large community, the Sunday services or Wednesday, but a lot of them will have small Bible studies. Some of them have men's groups. Some will have a ladies group. Some will have a youth group. So get involved in there, volunteer in there also. Keep busy, especially if it's a faith base, all right? Or find other areas that you can participate in. Volunteering, I think that's one of the things that we're not good at. As family, as individuals, a lot of us aren't really good at volunteering. We don't push it. We try, we see people who are really good at it, but it's not really promoted a lot. You don't see a lot in the schools. It's trying to get kids out of the house. Sometimes as parents, we have to do what we call forcing, voluntold. You're going to go volunteer. And it's like, but we learn skills. We engage. You get children out there. Instead of locked up on the cell phone, video games, no, put it away. You're going to go clean yards. You're going to go help pass out papers. You're going to go talk to the elderly. That's how we grew up. And volunteering comes natural for me and my family because we were engaged in the community. We were engaged in activities. We were never allowed to just be bored. Okay, that was one thing. One thing is never say you're bored in my house because, and I'm sure a lot of you all have that experience. If you say you're bored, ding, mama found a way not to get you bored. You know, she'll unboard you real quick. Well, we learned, so we did a lot of volunteering when we were bored too. Keeping busy. And one thing about volunteering is when you're giving to others and volunteering, you find out, what? I don't have it so bad. I'm actually in a good spot sometimes. Or it's just that reckoning to be told, thank you for helping out. It's gratifying. So that's another advantage with volunteering. So get involved, stay connected. And joining local groups, clubs, like I said, book clubs, hiking clubs, knitting groups, exercise groups, Zumba classes, anything that you become your own little organization. You know, here you see locally, you see bike clubs. I know at times you can drive down the street and you see a whole 15, 30 bikes going down the road. You know, you see people jogging, walking. So you can join little clubs like that. Anything that can just be feeling like you're belonging somewhere. All right. We're going to focus on spirituality. Spirituality, most people automatically think, when I talk about spirituality, they automatically think religion. And that's part of it. But like what I teach with my patients, not just our spiritual, it's our connectedness. It's our, and I'll use the words chi, karma, mojo. For a lot of the younger folks, it's the force. We are connected. Things that happen to us can have a ripple effect for others. And we talk a lot about that. So we want to maintain our spirituality. We want to be able to get centered. We want to be able to learn to get quiet and just let everything go. And connect to a higher being. If you believe, if you profess a religious, you know, whether you're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, if you have a religious, then get connected to a higher being. Like I tell some of my patients who aren't very religious, or they go, but you enjoy out nature? Okay, then enjoy Mother Nature. Just enjoy the power of the universe. Just what the universe has to offer you and how we fit in. You know, learn to just relax and realize I'm a small part in this universe. I'm a small part in this world. For those who are religious, I'm a small part in God's eyes. So what's my purpose here, and finding your ground? So that's really important. And part of that is learning to meditate. It's learning to, like I said, who enjoyed the weather the last few days? Just sit down and go, you know, just said thank you to whoever you believe in. Thank you, God. Thank you, Mother Nature. Or just thank you for the weather, period, whoever you want to thank. You know, just to enjoy the quiet of the rain hitting, or the thunder, or whatever it is that you find enjoyable. Just enjoy, stay connected, find your center, okay? For some part about spirituality is listening to music that can be relaxing. Sometimes it can be spiritual music. Attending church, attending virtual spiritual activities or groups. For some people, praying. Maybe finding a spiritual advisor if you're trying to find your way through understanding spirituality, talking to an advisor that's going to help you promote your oneness. And I mean, when we start doing all of those things, we'll find ourselves getting better and better overall. So how do we practice self-care? Well, the first thing I do is just make the time. If you're not making the time, you've already lost. You got to sit there and say, you know what, I got to do this. Start. Sometimes we want to start too big. Don't start big. Start with 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Start with baby steps. Start maybe once, twice a week. Slowly build up to it. You want to create a plan. What am I going to do to take care of my well-being? What's going to be my self-care plan? Well, if you know that you're good at exercising, but you're not taking care of yourself emotionally, then we want to maybe focus on how I can use my exercise to help me focus more on my emotions, my inner thoughts. If I still have negative thoughts, so then how do I work on my negative thoughts? So you want to address where the issues are. So one of the first things you want to do is do an assessment of yourself. Well, physically, how am I? Is that affecting me? And what are the concerns with my body, my health, my well-being physically? And once you identify those, make a list. You know, write them down. So if you're overweight, put overweight, need to start eating better. Okay, so then that we already know overweight's an issue. Maybe high blood pressure, maybe diabetes. So we're already looking at medical. Okay, now we're focusing on the mental. Well, a lot of negative thoughts. Maybe I'm dealing with some financial issues. Maybe I'm dealing with going through a divorce, separation. Well, now we're going to start focusing on how it affects you mentally. Well, I'm anxious, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm scared. So make a list of the mental and the emotional issues that you're coping with. What are some of the stresses you're dealing with in those areas? And spiritually, where am I at spiritually? Am I connecting? Am I taking that time out to meditate, to reflect on myself? So once you kind of get an idea what the issues are, then the next step is, okay, so which do I need to address? If you need to address something specifically in one area, then focus on that. Or you could take one or two from each area and combine them and start working on developing your self-care plan. And then starting. If you're one of those individuals that can do it on your own, then go for it. If you need a partner, then let somebody know, whether that partner's doing it with you or that person's like, hey, Tom, remember we talked about this? Hey, how's it going? You told me to check in with you. How many times did you go to the gym? Or no, I went there 3 times this week. Dude, you said 2, you went 3. How was it? So that accountability. So find you an accountability partner, whether somebody that's doing it with you or somebody that will just check in on you. That's always helpful. So that's part of developing your plan, helping you get ready. And these are some of the things we want to focus on. So if you do all that, then I think we'll get a better overall sense of self-worth, sense of pride, sense of I'm in control again. And that's the idea. When we're not taking care of ourselves, we don't feel in control. Learning to take care of the self-care helps us get ourselves back in balance, back in control. You're in control, we're able to deal with the chaos in our everyday lives. Chasing kids, going to work, keeping on time, following budgets, following projects, whatever it is you have to do. Going to the PTA meeting, keeping up, especially now the summer, these traveling sports teams. Now it's like, what season are we in? Well, I can't tell anymore because I'm not watching the pros, but if you're watching kids, you don't know if it's soccer, baseball, basketball, or football season because they're going year round. That can be very hectic for parents. So learning to find, with all the chaos that we're dealing with, how can I find that self-care to keep myself balanced, in control? That's the goal. All right?
All right, so let's talk a little bit more about self-care. And obviously, we tend to prioritize our day-to-day duties. So that's family, work, chores, commitments that we may have. And we always leave self-care to the end. And it's almost like a rinse and repeat mindset. It's the same day, at least Monday through Friday. Weekends, there may be a little bit more time, but yeah. I mean, there are a lot of parents. I know my niece is in soccer, volleyball, all these other sports, dance as well, and so her parents are really busy. So what happens when we don't carve out a little time for ourselves?
Well, what's going to happen is if we take it the 4 quadrants, again, physically we might start getting tired. We might start, especially these parents who are always with these kids, well, what are they eating? It's probably quick snacks, junk food. We start getting to that habit. They might gain a little bit more weight. They might, so we're not eating what we should be eating. We get tired because we're coming straight from work and you're like, oh my God, I'm going straight from work to go take my child either to a practice or we're going, like I've seen parents like tomorrow's 4th of July. How many parents, and that'll be a challenge for you parents, how many of you guys are actually taking off this weekend because you got a tournament to go to because somebody thought it'd be really great for the 4th of July to have a 4th of July tournament, whether it's soccer, baseball, golf, whatever, because your kids are in it and that's where the team decided. So how many games are being played this weekend? Tournaments are being played. And yet you're thinking you have a relaxing 4th of July, So then you're going from work. So you're probably already irritable. What if you had a bad day at work or it's been a long week, or you just you had to stay a little late to finish that project. You got done and then we're already on the road taking off. That can be very stressful, and mentally we're exhausted. Mentally we're not focused. We become more irritable. So you ever start affecting the emotions. I've seen parents go, I don't want to talk to you right now, telling the kid, you're a pain in my butt right now. I'm sorry, pardon the French, but right now you're being moody, you're being disrespectful, you don't appreciate what we're doing. So they don't even want to, be with the kids sometimes, and they're going to be a long 8-hour drive somewhere. Wow. So we start getting affected in that way. And then what happens, it doesn't just affect us personally, it affects our relationships, right? And it's how do we find that grounding time and get back.
So how do you carve out time? What's your best advice for making, even if it's those 20 minutes that can make a big difference?
I think a lot of this business, first off, look at your job. If you're at work, does your job allow you the opportunity to take off those few minutes? If you're allowed a lunch, and most places do have lunchtime, if you own the company, it should be easier. But most people will have anywhere from at least an hour for lunch. Do you go have lunch? Well, when was the last time you just went by yourself to have lunch and just sat there quietly and enjoy the quiet? I have coworkers, you'll find them in their cars having their lunch. Why? They're listening to music, they're relaxing. I had one that was taking a nap. They go, I'm taking a 20-minute power nap. Set their alarm, 20 minutes, they get up. So they find that. So it's those, you have to make time. There is no excuse that there is no time in the day. If you're at work, you can find it. Most places allow you a 15-minute break, depending on the job. You can take a morning 15-minute break, you can take an afternoon 15-minute break, and you still got your lunch. If you get an hour lunch, even better. It's those times. Doing things that's going to be helpful. So it's sitting down, and if you need to, you have to sit down, do a timeline. Like I wake up at this time, so from this time to this time to this time. So we're in there and be honest. When can I sneak it in? Don't be the person that says, well, I'm trying to catch up. And I'm guilty of it too. Sometimes I work through lunch or I'm eating lunch while I'm working. All right, because I'm trying to make sure I get my paperwork done and stuff like that, or I'm meeting clients. But every once in a while I try and make it a point, like I do sneak out. I'll tell the staff I'm going to make a quick store run. Well, that store run can be about 20, 30 minutes. I get an hour lunch break, that's a nice quiet time for me. Or I come back and I'll sit in the car before I go back in, and then an extra 5, 10 minutes. Grounding. So it's being honest with yourself and not cheating yourself out of the opportunity to take those moments. But you got to practice it. You got to get used to it. I think that's part of it. And get past the guilt. Like, but I need to take care of this. And if I don't do this, who's going to do it? If I'm not, so it's those little things. That's just at work. At home, sometimes you got to tell you, look at your kids in the face. This weekend, we ain't going nowhere. They're going to be mad. And what? You're the one footing the bill. You're the one saying, no, Daddy ain't working. It was interesting. I've had like my brother-in-law, I'm gonna get in trouble later if he's listening. Find out Father's Day, they're at a tournament. I'm like, why? It's Father's Day. I was surprised all the fathers didn't rebel. I said, I would have boycotted. Personally, I go, no, that's your day. You shouldn't be out there chasing your kids where they want. That's not their day. It's not like there's not another tournament, So things like that. So it's learning to be selfish and not feel guilty for doing what you got to do to be the best dad, the best mom for your family, the best son for your parents. Because also that can be hard when we're dealing with elderly parents and you're at work. So you have to give yourself and not feel guilty. Even when they're making you feel guilty, say, sorry, got to go. You'll be a better person. That's the whole idea.
Now, changing habits can be really hard. So any behavior change, it's important to make it as simple as possible, realistic and achievable.
Yes.
And it's okay to start small, right?
Yes. You got to take baby steps. You got to. Like if I said, I hate walking, so I'm not going to go start full time. I'm going to start running a 5K. No, ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
If I really want to do it, I'm going to start walking and then work my way up. Take the baby steps. First off, if I start walking and I hate it, I'm not going to run a 5K. So make achievable goals. Start with, I'm going to maybe run 5 minutes and come back. And then tomorrow, I'm going to do it for a week or two and then see how the running is going. And then you start increasing. So it's baby steps and expect to fall back. That one step forward, 2 steps back, that's going to happen whatever you're going to learn. Do it slow, take your time, don't get frustrated. If you do, the more we get frustrated, it's harder to stay focused and learn because we're pushing ourselves to do something we're not ready yet. The body will dictate you're ready to go to the next step, and then you go there. So take those baby steps. Don't beat yourself up. That's most important.
And how important is it to have that support system so that you can take those 20 minutes, that hour to go get a massage and have somebody who can help with the kids or whatever it may be?
It's very important to have that support system, that accountability partner, that person that's willing to work with you. If you're lucky enough to have a company or you work for somebody that allows you that freedom to be able to do those little things, that's a big plus. Like, we're blessed at the hospital. They put in a 15-minute massage quiet room area where you can go in there for 15 minutes. I haven't taken advantage of it yet, but you can go there. It's a massage. It's got the running water, the fountain. There's like the mood light, soft music. And I know I've gone by I walk by and I see occupied. It's like, oh, okay, occupied. So I know our staff are taking advantage of it. Can more people take advantage of it? I'm sure we could have more of our staff doing it. So those little things. And then having those accounting partners at work, having an accounting partner at home. If you have a spouse, a partner, that they can be an accounting partner and work with you. You know, a friend. So it's having that accountability. So you just don't need to have one accountability partner. It's always to have several, depending on what area.
Now, how can, especially for some people, it may be really overwhelming to think about how to plot out time in their calendar, especially if they're extremely busy with all of the responsibilities. How can a therapist help you sort of work through the overwhelming feelings that you may have of just carving out time?
Yeah. Well, one of the things as a therapist, if those are the issues, the stressors, finding time for yourself, it's kind of like saying, you have a problem with finances. What are you going to go talk to? You're going to talk to a financial advisor. Let's set up a money budget. Let's look at where your money's going. Well, we're going to see, what are you doing with your time? You know, we'll do a time management checklist. Where are you going? What's happening at this time? I see you have this gap. What are you doing here? Oh, and then you'd be surprised when they actually write down their daily schedule, and then there's somebody looking at it and calling them out on stuff. It's like, I didn't think about that. Or, well, what happens if you do this and move it over here? So it's that kind of a guidance, you know, so we can see something that they're not seeing at that moment, or we can say, well, have you thought of this? Recommend. So that's where counseling can come in, plus the support saying, okay, don't beat yourself up. Okay, then give me just 5 minutes of quiet time. Can you get up 5 minutes earlier or 10 minutes earlier than you normally do? Yeah. So right now you get up, like I said, I love watching folks. I live 10 minutes from work, and my daughter was notorious. She had a job. She was 10 minutes away from work. She got up. She goes in at 8. She was getting up at 7:40. I go, the heck? That makes no sense. You know, and she gets it right at, you know, she gets dressed, boom, boom, and in 15 minutes she's there. And I go, do you ever allow for traffic, things like that? Oh, I never thought about it. You might want to change that, because she ends up more stressful. So little things like that. So why don't you get up a little bit earlier?
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the things I've been doing more and more. I tend to get up at 7 to be at work by 8. Well, now I'm trying to get up at 6, trying to be out of the house by 6:45. I actually found myself enjoying my drive to the, you know, I can go pick up a taquito, go get me a coffee. I can go, if I have any notes, I can dictate my notes. I can sit in the truck before I walk in. I don't think I've punched in. When I say late, I usually, you know, if I get there, I might forget. I might go in, I might be there on time, but I forget to punch in. You know, so, but now I don't think I've punched in any later than 7:55, because I get there, I'm already walking in by 7:40, 7:45. You know, working for the hospital, and I'm sure you're probably guilty. Like, hey, ¿cómo estás? Hey, yeah, boom, 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 boom. We're like, weedy, and it's like, oh shit, I gotta go. I gotta go clock in. Right? Well, I don't have that stress. I don't have that stress now. Like, just getting up for me an extra hour early, relaxing, get dressed, boom. So I'm there, you know. So that's a habit that I'm getting into. Like, I can get there earlier. I don't think I punched in late in the last month or month and a half since I started being more proactive in that. It's just made it a little easier.
So those baby steps, just taking the baby steps.
Yeah, just taking little baby steps.
And final question. When should somebody seek professional help?
When it's starting to affect everything. Okay? If you're at that level. I always recommend, you seek professional help when you just feel you need to talk to somebody, go for it at any time. But when it's time to say, you know what, and maybe it's not you that might need it, but maybe you're recognizing it in family members, friends, say, you know what, there's something not clicking. You're not the same person. You're going, especially if it's more than, we call the everyday hiccup or having a bad week. Okay, I'm not on target. Maybe I'm not physically well. We check all that. But if we're already going 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. You know, like I see patients come in, they've been feeling this way for like 3 months. The family knows, I go, why are we waiting 3 months? You should have started coming in.
Yes.
You know, because we let it get too far, and then they're, you know, so it takes more work to get them back to some stability, some normalcy. When you feel like you just can't take it anymore, and I'm not saying you want to hurt yourself, just I'm ready to quit, or you're seeing your job getting affected. You know, you are going in late more than your usual. You're making mistakes that you normally wouldn't. What's routine stuff?
Yeah.
You know, that you could do blindfold, and you're like, oh man, I'm stressing out. That's a good time to start talking and processing.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for your time. This has all been very enlightening. We hope the audience has appreciated it as much as I have. I'm carving out my 20 minutes for a nap tonight.
Awesome.
And then getting my 7 to 9 hours of sleep. So thank you, Anival.
Excellent.
We appreciate your time.
Oh, you're so welcome. Appreciate it.
All right. And that officially concludes our webinar. We thank you for joining us. We hope you will continue to prioritize your mental health and the mental health of your loved ones. If you are experiencing a mental health challenge, STHS Behavioral can help. The facility has served the South Texas community for more than 30 years, offering inpatient and outpatient treatment options. If you or a loved one is experiencing a mental health issue, you can schedule a confidential assessment by calling their hotline at 956-388-1300. Please remember, you are not alone. Speak with a loved one or seek professional help if you need emotional or mental health support. And if you are experiencing a mental health crisis, it's important to call the National Suicide and Crisis Line at 988. Licensed counselors are available to speak with you in English and Spanish 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, don't miss our next installment of this Let's Talk Mental Health series on Thursday, August 7th, broadcast live at 5:30 p.m. via Facebook as we discuss grief and loss. We hope you can join us. And please watch our previous Let's Talk webinars by visiting sthsletstalk.com. Until our next webinar, stay healthy, stay safe, and please continue to prioritize your mental well-being. Sometimes life's burdens can take their toll on your emotional well-being. If you or a loved one is struggling, know that you are not alone. South Texas Health System Behavioral can help you cope with depression, manage feelings of anxiety, regain control of mood swings, and recover from substance use disorders. Our staff is available 24/7, offering the quality and compassionate inpatient and outpatient care you need to overcome life's challenges. South Texas Health System Behavioral, where your mental health is our priority.